Before we change culture, we have to understand why culture matters. Many people think culture is about having a positive attitude or getting along with coworkers. While those things are important, culture is much deeper than that. Culture is the environment we create every day through our actions, our decisions, and our behaviors. It's what people experience when they walk into our classrooms, our offices, our buses, our family services areas, and our meetings. The question isn't whether we have a culture. Every organization has one. The real question is our culture helping us achieve our mission or is it preventing us from reaching our full potential? As Head Start professionals, our mission is bigger than ourselves. We exist to prepare children for school and support families towards self-sufficiency. That means our culture has to reflect excellence in everything we do. Culture drives staff morale, family engagement, and outcomes. When employees feel respected, supported, and valued, they perform better. When teachers enjoy coming to work, children feel that positive energy. Families notice when staff work together. And children thrive in environments where adults collaborate and model healthy relationships. Our culture impacts everyone who walks through our doors. Strong culture reduces turnover and compliance issues. Many people think compliance happens because staff don't know the rules, but sometimes that's not true. But more often, compliance problems are symptoms of something deeper. Things like poor communication, lack of accountability, fear of asking questions, and inconsistent leadership. When we build a culture where people communicate openly, hold one another accountable respectfully, and solve problems together, many compliance issues are prevented before they even happen. I bet you didn't know that federal reviews reflect organizational culture. When federal reviewers come into a program, they don't just review documents. They observe classrooms, they watch interactions, they interview staff, they review systems. Very quickly, they begin to understand the culture of the organization. You can't create a positive culture just for a review week. Culture shows up every day in how we greet families, support staff, supervise classrooms, and respond when challenges arise. The strongest programs don't prepare for reviews. They operate with excellence every day. Change must be intentional, visible, and sustained. Culture doesn't improve because we hope it will. It improves because leaders make intentional decisions. It improves because everyone commits to shared expectation. It improves because we consistently reinforce the behavior we want to see. Small changes repeated every day eventually become the new culture. As we move through today's training, I want you to think about your own role, regardless of your position: teacher, family advocate, supervisor, director, health staff, transportation support staff. You influence the culture of this program. You influence the culture of your program. Every interaction is an opportunity to strengthen trust, demonstrate professionalism, and support the mission. Culture isn't built by one department, it's built by everyone, one decision and one interaction at a time. If someone walked into your program today and observed you for 1 week, what 3 words would they use to describe the culture? And what would those 3 words be? What would you want them to be? The objectives today are to understand how to create a culture of change, learn 10 practical steps for organizational transformation, build systems for accountability, trust, and continuous improvement, develop a 1 year implementation roadmap. Before we start talking about strategies for creating a stronger culture, I think it's important that we acknowledge something. Change is hard. Not because people are lazy, not because people don't care, but because change asks us to let go of what is familiar. Every one of us, including me, has experienced change that felt uncomfortable. Sometimes change brings excitement, sometimes it brings uncertainty, sometimes it brings fear. And sometimes it simply feels overwhelming because we're already carrying a heavy workload. Those feelings are normal. The question isn't whether change is difficult. The question is whether we're willing to go through it together. Staff may fear change or feel overwhelmed. When organizations begin making changes, people often ask themselves questions they may never say out loud. Will I still be successful? Will my job change? Am I being criticized for how things have been done? Will I receive the support I need? Those are real concerns. As leaders, as teammates, we have to recognize those emotions while also helping one another move forward. Fear should never keep us from becoming better. Programs often struggle with communication and consistency. One of the biggest challenges in any organization isn't the work itself, it's usually the communication. When communication breaks down, people make assumptions, rumors begin, trust decreases, departments begin to operate in silos instead of working together. The result is inconsistency. One classroom does one thing and another classroom does something different. We all know what that looks like, right? One supervisor communicates expectations clearly and another one doesn't. Families begin receiving mixed messages. Children deserve consistency. Families deserve consistency. Staff deserve consistency. And most important, consistency, it builds trust. Burnout impacts performance and relationships. I also want us to acknowledge something that many of us have experienced: burnout. Burnout doesn't happen because people don't care. In fact, many times it happens because people care deeply. They give everything they have. They pour into children, they pour into families, they pour into coworkers, and eventually they become emotionally exhausted. When we're burned out, our patience decreases. Communication suffers, relationships become strained, small problems begin feeling much bigger than what they really are. That's why creating a healthy culture isn't just good for the organization, it's good for the people who make this organization successful. Transformation requires leadership alignment and trust. Real transformation begins with leadership, speaks with one voice, one band, one sound. That's my motto. That doesn't mean everyone thinks exactly alike. It means we're united around one mission, one vision, one set of expectations. When leadership is aligned, staff know what success looks like. When leadership is aligned, confusion decreases. When leadership is aligned, trust begins to grow. Trust is the foundation of every health organization. Without trust, communication struggles, collaboration struggles, innovation struggles. But with trust, people become willing to grow. I want everyone to hear this clearly. This training is not about blaming the past. It is not about pointing fingers. It isn't about criticizing anyone's hard work. This is about honoring the work that has been done while recognizing that our children, our families, our community deserve for us to continue growing. Every great organization reaches a point where it has to decide, do we stay comfortable or do we become better? Today, we're choosing to become better. When you hear the word change, what is the very first emotion or thought that comes to mind? Whatever your answer is, know that you're not alone. The important thing is that we don't let fear define our future. Together, we can create a culture where change is something we experience with one another, not something that happens to us. Creating a sense of urgency. Every successful transformation begins with one thing: a recognition that we cannot stay where we are. Urgency is not about panic, and urgency is not about creating fear. Urgency is about understanding that our mission is too important to become comfortable with the status quo. Every child who walks through our doors only gets one opportunity to experience Head Start. We don't get a chance to go back and give them a better first day, a better classroom experience, or a better interaction with their family. That's why what we do today matters. Identify current challenges honestly. The first step towards improvement is honestly. You have to be honest. If we can't acknowledge our challenges, we can't solve them. Strong organizations don't pretend problems don't exist. Instead, they ask, what are we doing well? Where are our opportunities for growth? What barriers are preventing us from reaching excellence? Having honest conversations is not about placing blame, it's about creating solutions. As leaders, we must create an environment where staff feel safe, identify problems, because they know that the goal is improvement and not punishment. That's critical. Use data to communicate the need for change. In Head Start, our decisions should always, always, always be driven by data. Data removes emotion from the conversation. Instead of saying, I think we have a problem, we can say, here, what child outcomes data tells us. Here's what our class scores tell us. Here's what our attendance data tells us. Here's what our family engagement tells us. Here's what our monitoring results tells us. Data helps us focus on facts instead of opinions. The purpose of data isn't to criticize people, it's to guide better decisions. That's a key one. We should be using our data to make every decision possible. That way, decisions are never based on emotion. They're always based on data, which speaks to what is best for the program. Address compliance, staffing, and quality concerns. Compliance isn't simply about passing a federal review. Compliance exists because every regulation is designed to protect children, families, and the integrity of a program. When we address staffing shortages, classroom quality, documentation, active supervision, health and safety, and internal monitoring, we're not just checking boxes. We're creating an environment where children are safe, supported, and able to learn. Quality and compliance should never compete with one another. They should work together. You have to help staff understand the why behind the change. That's critical. One of the biggest mistakes that organizations make is telling people what is changing without explaining the why. People are much more likely to support change when they understand its purpose. If we ask staff to complete documentation differently, they need to know why. If we change a process, they deserve to understand how it improves the outcomes. If we introduce new expectations, they need to see how those expectations connect to the mission. When people understand the why, they're much more willing to embrace the how. I'd like each of us to think about this. Imagine a child entering our program today. That child doesn't know whether we're fully staffed. They don't know if we had communication challenges. They don't know whether we're preparing for a federal review. They simply trust that the adults around them will provide a safe, nurturing, high-quality learning environment. That trust is a tremendous responsibility. Creating urgency isn't about reacting to a crisis. It's about recognizing that every day matters because every child matters. If you could improve one thing in your program this year that would have the greatest impact on children and families, what would that be? Now, Notice that every answer you shared comes back to one common purpose: improving outcomes for children and families. That's what creates urgency. We don't change because it's convenient. We change because our mission requires us to continually grow and improve. Now that we've established why change is necessary, the next question becomes, who will lead that change? No one transforms an organization alone. Sustainable change requires a coalition of committed leaders working together towards a common vision. Building leadership alignment. If we're serious about changing culture, we'll have to start with leadership. Every organization eventually becomes a reflection of its leaders. People don't just listen to what leaders say, they watch what leaders do. Our staff are constantly asking themselves, what does leadership value? What behaviors are rewarded? What behaviors are ignored? Can I trust leadership to be consistent? Whether we realize it or not, leadership sets the tone for the entire organization. Whenever someone comes to me and they say that they're having program issues and their teachers are out of control, or their family services staff, they don't listen, or they have all of this drama, chaos, and confusion, it's the program. The leadership said it's the program. My immediate response is always, it's never the program. It is always your leadership team, because it starts with leadership. Leadership sets the tone. You're having issues with drama, chaos, confusion, systemic issues within your program. Yes, it may be happening at the center level. Yes, it may be happening in your classrooms or with your family services. But I promise you, it begins with your leadership. Leadership team must speak with one voice. One of the fastest ways to create confusion is when leaders send different messages. Imagine a teacher asking 3 different supervisors the same question and getting 3 different answers. Oh, trust me, that's a real thing. Now that teacher isn't sure which direction to follow. That creates frustration, it weakens trust, it leads to inconsistency across the program. Speaking with one voice doesn't mean that we never have different opinions. Healthy leadership teams debates ideas behind closed doors. But once a decision is made, leadership supports that decision together. When leadership is united, staff have confidence because expectations are clear. You have to create shared expectations and priorities. One of our responsibilities as leaders is to make sure everyone understands that what success looks like. Every department has different responsibilities. Education focuses on teaching and learning. Family services focus on supporting families. Health focuses on children's physical well-being. Transportation focuses on children getting to and from school. Fiscal ensures responsible stewardship of our federal funds. But although our responsibilities are different, our priorities should always be the same. Every department should be asking, does this improve outcomes for children? Does this strengthen families? Does this support compliance? Does this reflect the mission of Head Start? When our priorities are aligned, our departments stop competing and they start collaborating. We must model professionalism and accountability. As leaders, we cannot expect staff to demonstrate behaviors that we don't model ourselves. If we expect professionalism, we must be professional. If we expect respectful communication, then we must communicate respectfully. If we expect accountability, we must hold ourselves accountable first. Leadership's influence is people learn more from what they observe than what from they hear. The culture we want to create begins with the example we set every day. Develop leadership trust and consistency. You have to remember, trust is earned through consistency. Our staff should know what to expect from us. That means following through on our commitments, being fair in our decisions, addressing concerns respectfully, having difficult conversations when necessary, celebrating successes just as intentionally as we address challenges. Consistency builds credibility, credibility builds trust, and trust creates an environment where people are willing to grow, collaborate, and innovate. Now let's bring all this together. I want us to think of leadership like the steering wheel on a bus. If every person at the front is pulling the wheel in a different direction, the bus doesn't reach its destination, does it? No. But when everyone is steering towards the same destination, even difficult roles become manageable. The same is true for a program. Alignment doesn't mean we're all the same. It means we're all moving in the same direction, guided by the same mission, and committed to the same standards of excellence. Ask your leadership team this question. Think about your department for a moment. If I asked every employee on your team to describe your expectations, what would they say? Think about that. If you were to ask your leadership team to ask every person in their department to describe their leader's expectations, would they all give the same answer? Because if you have 10 people and 10 different answers, you have an issue. Next, ask them this second question. What is one thing you can do this school year to ensure your team hears a clear, consistent message from you? And then focus on that. Focus on how do you move forward today, being consistency, in being consistent in your messaging and building that capacity of trust. I believe in every person that chose to become a leader. I believe that they chose to become a leader because they wanted to make a difference. The children and families we serve deserve leaders who are united, consistent, and committed to excellence. When leadership is aligned, trust grows, and when trust grows, collaboration improves. When collaboration improves, classrooms become stronger, families receive better support, and children receive the high-quality Head Start experience they deserve. Leadership alignment isn't just about making our jobs easier. It's about ensuring that every decision we make advances our mission and creates lasting opportunities for the children and families who are counting on us. Now that we established the importance of leadership alignment, the next question is, where are we going together? Alignment without a clear vision can keep everyone moving, but not necessarily in the right direction. Focus on creating a shared vision that every employee can understand, believe in, and support. So we've talked about why leadership alignment matters. Now let's talk about what it actually looks like in practice. Leadership alignment doesn't happen by accident. It happens through intentional systems and consistent behavior. Our goal is not simply to meet together more often. Our goal is to lead in a way that provides clarity, consistency, and confidence from our staff. The first strategy is consistent leadership meetings. These meetings are not just calendar invites, they are opportunities to ensure that we remain aligned as one leadership team. This is where you should review data, discuss challenges before they become crisis, share successes across departments, remove barriers, hold one another accountable, and make decisions together. When leadership communicates regularly, staff receive consistent guidance instead of mixed messages. If one department is struggling, we all own the solution. We are one program, not separate departments. You have to have unified communication protocols. Communication is one of the most powerful leadership tools that we have. Our staff should never have to wonder, who do I ask? Which answer is correct? Why did one supervisor tell me one thing and another supervisor tell me something else? As leaders, we must communicate with consistency. That means sharing the same expectations, following the same policies and procedures, reinforcing the same priorities, supporting decisions once they are made. When communication is unified, trust increases and confusion decreases. In Head Start monitoring, it isn't about catching people doing something wrong. It's about helping people succeed. See, your shared monitoring systems, you should be able to answer very important questions. Are children receiving high quality services? Are classrooms meeting expectations? Are families receiving timely support? Are health requirements being completed? Are we following the Head Start program performance standards consistently? Data allows us to celebrate successes while identifying opportunities for improvement. When we monitor consistently, improvement becomes continuous, not just something we focus on before a federal review. Visible leadership presence at sites. One of the most important things we can do as leaders is simply be present. Leadership cannot happen only from behind a desk. It's not possible. Well, it's possible, but you won't be successful. Our staff need to see us in classrooms, on playgrounds, at family events and centers, on buses and meetings. When we visit sites, we aren't there to simply inspect. We should be there to listen, encourage, coach, support, build relationships, celebrate great work. Visible leadership reminds staff they are not working alone. It shows them that leadership understands the realities of their work because we're willing to be where the work happens. As we prepare for this school year, our leadership team is committed to leading differently. That means meeting consistently as one leadership, communicating one clear message across every department, using common data to guide our decisions, being visible and accessible to staff, supporting one another instead of working in silos. When teachers, family advocates, bus drivers, cooks, custodians, office staff, managers all hear the same expectations from every leader, they gain confidence in the direction of the program. And that's how culture begins to change. Now, leadership teams, ask this question. Ask this question of your leadership team. Think about your staff you supervise. If they described your leadership today, what 3 words would they use? Now, would those 3 words reflect the type of leader you want to be? Children deserve consistency, families deserve consistency, and our staff deserve consistency. And consistency begins with us. If we commit to leading together with one mission, one voice, and one standard of excellence, we build a culture that is stronger, healthier, and more sustainable than any one person could ever create alone. Leadership alignment isn't about titles, it's about influence. Every interaction we have either strengthens our culture or weakens it. Let's choose to strengthen it every day. Leadership alignment gives us the foundation, but a foundation alone isn't enough. The next step is to create a shared vision, one that every employee understands, believes in, and can see themselves contributing to every day. All right, so once we've created urgency and aligned our leadership team, the next step is to establish a clear vision. A vision is more than a statement on the wall, it's more than words and a strategic plan. A vision is a shared picture of the future that guides every decision that we make. Without a clear vision, people stay busy, but they don't always move in the same direction. Our responsibility as leaders is to make sure every employee understands not only what we're trying to accomplish, but why it matters. One of the greatest frustrations for employees is not knowing what success looks like. Define what success looks like. If expectations aren't clear, people end up creating their own expectations. As leaders, we have to answer questions like, what does an excellent classroom look like? What does excellent customer service look like? What does strong family engagement look like? What does effective leadership look like? When success is clearly defined, everyone has the same target. From our program, success means every child is safe, every family feels valued, every classroom promotes learning, every employee understands their role in fulfilling our mission. Align goals with Head Start performance standards. Our vision cannot exist separately from the Head Start program performance standards. Those standards aren't obstacles, they're a framework for quality. When we align our goals with the performance standards, we're making a commitment that every decision supports. High quality education, comprehensive services, family partnerships, health and safety, fiscal responsibility, strong governance, and continuous improvement. Compliance should never be viewed as doing enough to pass a review. Instead, it should reflect our commitment to providing the highest quality services possible. Create measurable outcomes. A vision without measurable goals is simply hope. If we want to improve, we have to measure our progress. That means asking, are children's outcomes improving? Are families more engaged? Are attendance rates increasing? Are class scores improving? Are we reducing staff turnover? Are we resolving concerns quickly? Are we strengthening collaboration across departments? When we measure progress, we don't just identify challenges, we also celebrate achievements. Celebrating progress reminds people that their hard work is making a difference. Communicate vision repeatedly and consistently. As leaders, one of our biggest responsibilities is repetition. People rarely embrace a vision after hearing it once. They need to hear it consistently in meetings, coaching conversations, emails, trainings, and every interaction. Our message should always connect back to our mission. Why are we doing this? How does it help children? How does it support families? How does it strengthen our program? When leaders consistently communicate the same vision, people begin to believe it, understand it, and eventually live it. Connecting it to our leadership team, as we begin the school year together, I want for us to share one common vision. Our vision is not simply to operate a compliant Head Start. Our vision is to create a program where every child receives exceptional care and education, every family feels welcome, respected, and supported, every employee feels valued, equipped, and accountable, every department works together instead of in isolation, every decision reflects excellence, integrity, and service. When we all understand that vision, our daily decisions become much easier because we know what we're working toward. If I asked every employee in your department what our vision is, would they all give the same answer? What is one thing you can do over the next month to make our vision more visible to your team? I often say people don't commit to what they don't understand. When people clearly see where we're going, they become more engaged, more motivated, and more willing to contribute. A clear vision gives purpose to our work. It transforms daily tasks into meaningful service. And more importantly, it reminds us that every decision we make has the potential to improve the lives of the children and families we serve. So now we have urgency, we have leadership alignment, and we have a clear vision. But a vision alone doesn't create change. The next step is making sure that every employee understands how they contribute to the vision and feels empowered to be a part of it. That's where real organizational transformation begins. Vision example: a safe, high-forming, family-centered program where children, families, and staff thrive together. This vision should guide every decision we make. Before we make a decision, we should ask ourselves, does this support our vision? If the answer is no, we need to rethink it. This is just an example, but whatever your vision is, remember that a vision only works when everyone understands it. Every department, from education to family services to health, transportation, fiscal, ERC, plays an important role in making the vision a reality. That's why we keep our goals visible at every site, talk about our vision regularly, include it in onboarding, coaching, and performance evaluations. When everyone understands the vision, we stop working in separate departments and start working as one team with one purpose. Our vision is just isn't something we say, it's something we live every day through our actions, our decisions, and the way we serve children and families. Now that we have a clear vision, the next step is making sure that everyone and every employee feels empowered and equipped to help achieve that vision. Improve communication. Communication is one of the biggest drivers of a healthy culture. When communication is poor, trust breaks down, confusion grows, and people begin making assumptions. As leaders, it's our responsibility to communicate clearly, consistently, and honestly. First, we must be transparent. Staff may not always like every decision, but they deserve to understand the reason behind it. Second, we need to provide regular updates. We should never let staff or families wonder what's happening. Keep everyone informed. It builds confidence and engagement. Finally, communication is a two-way process. We need to create opportunities for staff to ask questions, share ideas, and provide feedback. Listening is just as important as speaking. At the end of the day, people support what they understand and what they feel they're a part of. When communication improves, trust grows, and when trust grows, culture becomes stronger. Communication doesn't improve by chance, it improves because we put systems in place. Here are some examples. Weekly newsletters keep everyone informed. They celebrate accomplishments and ensure staff receive the same information at the same time. Monthly staff town halls give employees an opportunity to ask questions, share ideas, and stay connected to the direction of the program. Open communication builds trust. Leadership office hours remind staff that leadership is accessible. We want employees to know they have a place to ask questions, seek guidance, and share concerns. We need consistent expectations for emails and meetings. That means responding in a timely manner, having clear agendas, and always following through on commitments. The goal is simple: no surprises, no mixed messages, and no one feeling left out. When communication is intentional and consistent, trust grows, teamwork improves, and our entire program becomes stronger. Accountability is not about punishment, it's about responsibility. It's how we ensure we're delivering the best possible services to children and families. First, everyone needs to understand their role and what success looks like. Clear expectations help people perform with confidence. Second, we use monitoring and follow-up to support improvement. Data, classroom observations, and regular check-ins help us celebrate what's going well and identify where support is needed. Finally, when concerns arise, we address them properly, respectfully, and fairly. Avoiding difficult conversations only allow people to grow. A culture of accountability means we all own our work, support one another, and remain committed to continuous improvement. When everyone is accountable, our program becomes stronger, more consistent, and better equipped to serve children and families. So we've made it to step 6, developing staff capacity. Our greatest resource is our people. If we want stronger outcomes for children and families, we must invest in our staff. That starts with professional development. Training should build confidence, strengthen skills, and help staff grow in their roles. Next is coaching and mentoring. Everyone benefits from support, feedback, and encouragement. Our goal is to help staff improve, not just evaluate them. We also want to create growth opportunities by encouraging leadership, recognizing potential, and helping employees advance professionally. Finally, we must support new and struggling staff. Every employee deserves the tools, resources, and guidance they need to be successful. When we invest in our staff invest in our children. Strong employees build strong classrooms, strong relationships with families, and ultimately a stronger Head Start program. Some professional development ideas. Professional development should do more than meet a training requirement. It should prepare our staff for success. One way we can do this is through leadership academies, where we identify and develop future leaders within our program. We also want to encourage peer mentoring, allowing experienced staff to support and coach those who are newer to the program. And both of these resources, you can find them on the NHSA website. We also want to encourage class-focused coaching, giving teachers meaningful feedback that strengthen classroom interactions and improve child outcomes. Finally, cross-training and certifications help staff expand their skills, understand other areas of the program, and prepare for future opportunities. When we invest in learning, we invest in our people, and when our people grow, our program grows right along with it. An example that I would give for that is why are you just getting CDAs for your teachers when everyone in the program has to have some type of exposure to children? And sometimes, it's that exposure that makes people realize that they want to change fields, or they might be a custodian or working in health and they really want to be in the classroom. And sometimes the reality of the situation is you have people in the classroom that really, that's just not where their passion is. They don't want to be in the classroom. It also, by cross training and allowing cross certifications, you're building capacity of your program to be able to fill in those gaps and support when people are not available. So just opening a broader lens to allowing that cross functional to take place in the workplace, cross functional training and certification. A strong culture is one where people feel safe to speak up and ask questions and share ideas without fear. As leaders, we want to create an environment where staff know their voices matter. Many of our best ideas for improvement come from the people doing the work every day. Psychological safety also means treating one another with respect. We won't always agree, but we can always communicate professionally and listen with an open mind. As leaders, we should lead with trust, support, and coaching, not fear. People perform their best when they feel valued and supported. When conflict arises, we address it early, fairly, and respectfully. We focus on solving the problem, not attacking the person. When staff feel safe, they become more engaged, more innovative, and more committed to our mission. A culture of trust creates a culture of excellence. Signs of a healthy culture. How do we know if our culture is improving? We look for the behaviors that reflect a healthy organization. Well, first, staff collaborate openly. Departments work together, share ideas, and support one another instead of working in silos. Second, employees feel heard. They know their opinions matter because leaders listen, respond, and value their input. Third, problems are addressed early. We don't ignore issues or hope they'll go away. We have respectful conversations and work together to find solutions before they become bigger challenges. And finally, a healthy culture encourages innovation. When staff feel supported, they're more willing to share new ideas, improve processes, and think creatively in how we serve our children and families. A healthy culture isn't measured by the absence of problems. It is measured by how we work together to solve the problems. When people feel valued, respected, and supported, everyone benefits, especially the children and the families that we serve. Increasing the family and the community voice. Head Start was built on the belief that families are our partners. They are not just recipients of services, they are essential to our program's success. That means we actively involve families in decision making through policy council, parent meetings, and ongoing communication. We also need to regularly ask for feedback, surveys, conversations, family meetings. That helps us working on what we need to improve. And finally, strong community partnerships expand the resources available to our children and families. We can't do this work alone, and we don't have to. When families, staff, and community partners work together, children benefit. That's what Head Start is all about, building strong partnerships that create stronger outcomes for every child. Family engagement doesn't happen by accident. It happens when we intentionally invite families to be a part of our program. That starts with family forums and listening sessions, where parents have opportunities to share ideas, ask questions, and provide feedback. We also strengthen relationships through community events that brings family, staff, and children together in a welcoming environment. Another important strategy is parent leadership training. Head Start is about empowering families, so we want parents to feel confident serving on policy council, volunteering, and becoming leaders in our program. Finally, we want to build strong partnerships with schools and community agencies to connect families with additional resources and support. When families feel welcomed, heard, and valued, they become active partners in their children's education. That's when we see the greatest impact on children and the strongest outcomes for our program. One of the easiest ways to strengthen a positive culture, step number 9, is to celebrate success. Too often we focus on what's wrong and forget to recognize what's going well. Whether it's a teacher who had an outstanding class observation, or a family advocate who helped a family overcome a challenge, or a site that reached an enrollment goal, every success deserves recognition. Celebrating wins doesn't have to be something big. A thank you, a shout out in a meeting, or highlighting a success story can go a long way in boosting morale. We should also share the impact of our work. When staff see how their efforts are making a difference for children and families, it reminds them why their work matters. People repeat what is recognized. If we want a culture of excellence, we need to consistently celebrate excellence. Celebrating success keeps our teams motivated, and you want to make sure that this does not fade over time, that you remain consistent in your celebration, and it becomes a part of your Head Start culture. Recognition doesn't have to be expensive, it just has to be meaningful. Some examples would be Employee of the Month. The program recognizes staff who go above and beyond for children and families. You can hold site appreciation events to celebrate hard work for teams and remind them that they're valued. Another great strategy is sharing success stories. Highlighting the impact that staff and families are making inspires others and keeps the mission and center grounded. And finally, celebrate team milestones, whether it's meeting enrollment goals, improving class scores, completing a successful federal review, or reaching another important accomplishment. Recognition creates motivation. When people know their efforts are noticed and appreciated, they are more engaged, more committed, and more likely to continue striving for excellence. Step 10, sustain continuous improvement. Creating a culture of excellence isn't something we do once, it's something we commit to every day. That's why continuous improvement is so important. We must regularly monitor our progress, review our data, and ask ourselves, how can we be even better? Action plans help turn ideas into results. Every goal should have clear responsibilities, timelines, and a follow-up so we can measure our progress. Finally, we need to review our progress regularly. We should celebrate what's working, learn from what's not, and make adjustments along the way. Continuous improvement isn't about being perfect, it's about never stopping our commitment to growth. Every improvement we make strengthens our program, supports our staff, and creates better outcomes for the children and families that we serve. More than good intentions, it requires the right tools. Data dashboards help us monitor our progress and make informed decisions. We can't improve what we don't measure. Internal monitoring calendar keeps us proactive instead of reactive. Regular check-ins help us identify opportunities for improvement before they become larger issues. When concerns are identified, we use corrective action tracking to ensure responsibilities are assigned, timelines are met, and improvements are completed. Quarterly strategic reviews allows us to reflect on our progress, celebrate successes, and adjust our plans as needed. The goal isn't to prepare for federal reviews, it's to build systems that support excellence every day. When we're consistently monitoring, evaluate, and improve, continuous improvement becomes part of our culture, not part of the success. So, culture change doesn't happen overnight. It happens through consistent effort over time. That's why we created a 1 year roadmap. Quarter one, about 3 months, 90 days. Focus on leadership alignment, establishing vision, and honestly assessing where you are today. Quarter two, invest in staff through professional development, strengthening communication, and build systems that support accountability. Quarter three, focus on strengthening culture by building trust, increasing family engagement, and celebrating progress that's been made. Quarter four, evaluate the results, review the data, make any needed adjustments, and put strategies in place to sustain success. The timeline reminds us that lasting change is a journey, not an event. Every quarter builds on the one before it, and every step brings you closer to becoming the high performing Head Start program that children, families, and staff deserve. Whenever change happens, some resistance is normal. Our job as leaders isn't to fight resistance, it's to understand it. First, listen before reacting. People want to know that they've been heard. Second, communicate often, frequent, honest updates, reduce uncertainty, and builds trust. Third, provide the training and support staff need to be successful. Fourth, involve staff in finding solutions. People are more committed to changes they help create. Finally, stay calm and consistent. As leaders, we set the tone. If we remain focused, supportive, and positive, others are more likely to follow. Remember, resistance isn't always opposition. It often means people need more information, support, and reassurance. I'd like to close with a few reflection questions. Think about one change you can implement immediately when you return to your department. Ask yourself, what systems need the most attention? Is it communication, accountability, training, or teamwork? Next, consider one thing you can do as a leader this week to improve your team's culture. Finally, write down one specific action you'll commit to taking within the next 30 days. Remember, culture doesn't change because we attend training. It changes because we choose to take action. Every leader has the ability to influence that change starting today. As we close out today, I want to leave you with 5 key takeaways. Culture starts with leadership. Our teams will follow the example that we set every day. And consistency builds trust. When our words and actions align, people know what to expect. People support what they help create. Involving staff and families leads to stronger commitment and better outcomes. Lasting change requires systems and accountability. Good intentions become results when we follow through. Transformation is possible. If we stay focused, work together, and remain committed, we can build a stronger Head Start program. Thank you for your engagement today. Together, we have the opportunity to build a stronger, healthier, and more successful Head Start program. I want to sincerely thank each of you for your time, your engagement, and most importantly, your commitment to our children and families. Creating a culture of excellence doesn't happen overnight. It happens through intentional leadership, accountability, teamwork, and a shared commitment to continuous improvement. As we begin this new school year, let's commit to leading with integrity, communicating with purpose, supporting one another, and holding ourselves accountable to the high standards our children deserve. Remember, every interaction, every decision, and every action shapes our culture. Together, we will build a stronger leadership team, a stronger Head Start program, and better outcomes for every child and family we serve.